Could you kill someone? Not in war, not in self-defense, but kill someone you know. Not because they hurt you, not because they deserve it, but simply because they're different. You want to say no, but people like you already have, more times than history can count. I love you, baby. This has happened before. It will happen again. And the people who did it thought they were the good guys. What is so fundamentally broken at the core of human nature that these people see themselves as upholding justice, instead of being the butchers of a man and his daughter? My daughter, she's lost, help me find her, she was playing in the yard, I don't know where she's gone. One of the daughters of our village is lost. We must find her. Every single person scour every inch of this district. No one sleeps till she's found. We must get to her before the dawn of night.
Don't worry, this village has your back.
Nothing changed about this man. Nothing changed about his daughter. Nothing changed about the village. One thing changed, and that one thing is responsible for every genocide, every war, every atrocity in human history. And it lives inside you too. Every atrocity in history was committed by people who believed they were the good guys. Not monsters or psychopaths, ordinary people, neighbors, parents, people who would search all night for a lost child. So the question isn't what makes humans evil, the question is what makes good people cross that line. This is Mostar, a city in Bosnia that sat at the crossroad of civilizations for 500 years. Ottoman minarets beside Catholic churches, beside Orthodox cathedrals, not as monuments to division, but as proof that people with different gods had figured out how to share a street. The Muslims, the Serbs, the Croats of Mostar did not merely tolerate each other. They intermarried. They celebrated each other's holidays. They sat at each other's tables. By 1991, 1 in 3 marriages in Bosnia crossed ethnic lines. These were not separate communities existing in uneasy peace. They were one community that happened to pray differently on different mornings. Then, someone drew a line. Not a geographic one, not a legal one, a line in the mind. A slow, deliberate campaign on the radio, in the newspaper, in political speeches that began whispering the same message over and over until it became the only thing people could hear.
They're not like you. They were never like you. And they're coming for everything you have.
It took less than 2 years. By 1993, neighbors were firing sniper rifles at each other from opposite ends of the same street they'd grown up on together. Families who'd attended each other's weddings were burning each other's homes. A doctor who had delivered half the babies in the city was dragged from his house by men whose children he had treated. The same hands that had passed bread across a fence were now holding weapons across a barricade. Nothing changed about these people. Nothing changed about their history. Nothing changed about the streets they had shared for 5 centuries. One thing changed. They stopped seeing each other as neighbors. And the moment that line was drawn, the moment your neighbor stopped being your neighbor, everything else followed. Not as a choice, as a reflex. The same reflex that kept your ancestors alive for 100,000 years. The same reflex that is sitting inside you right now. Not because these people were evil, but because these people were exactly like you. The man whose house burned in an opening, he wasn't a stranger to those men. He was a neighbor, someone whose daughter they had watched grow up, someone whose face they knew. The line didn't erase that knowledge, it just made it irrelevant. And this exact mechanism has a name: in-group, out-group bias in psychology. But before we get there, we need to understand just how far it goes. Because Mostar wasn't unique. It wasn't even particularly extreme. This is Rwanda, a landlocked country in the heart of Africa, home to one of the most cohesive civilizations on the continent. For thousands of years, one people inhabited this land. They spoke the same language, practiced the same traditions, worshipped the same gods. There was no Rwanda in another place. There was just Rwanda. And then Europeans arrived. The German colonized Rwanda in 1897 and encountered a problem that colonial administrators always encountered. How do you govern 1 million people with a few hundred soldiers? The answer was always the same: divide them. But Rwanda presented a unique challenge. There was almost nothing to divide. No competing languages, no warring religions, no ancient tribal boundaries. Two groups existed, the Hutus and the Tutsis, but the distinction between them was fluid and economic. A Hutu family that acquired enough cattle could become Tutsi within a generation. A Tutsi who lost his herd became a Hutu. The line existed, but it breathed. The Germans took this breathing line and froze it. The cattle herders, the Tutsis, were elevated, given European education, positions in the government, authority over their neighbors. The farmers, the Hutus, were pushed down, told to defer, to serve, to accept their place at the bottom of a hierarchy that had barely existed the generation before. Belgium took over after the First World War, and in 1933, they did something small, something administrative. They issued identity cards. Every Rwandan was handed a document that told them what they were, or rather, what the colonial administration had decided they were. A social class that had shifted with the seasons for millennia, frozen on a piece of paper. An entire identity, printed on a card, manufactured in a colonial office by men who had never shared a meal with people whose lives they were sorting. Colonial powers left in 1962, having spent nearly 8 years carefully, deliberately, systematically converting a permeable social distinction into an immutable racial identity. The seeds took over 30 years to fully bloom. By 1994, the Hutu had a word for the Tutsi: inyenzi, cockroaches. Not people, not neighbor, not the family whose daughter your son used to play with. Cockroaches, insects, things that exist below the threshold of human consideration, things you do not murder, you exterminate. On the night of April 7th, 1994, the killing began. 100 days, 1 million people. Neighbors who had shared harvests, colleagues who had shared offices, friends who had shared meals. They did not hesitate, they did not waver, they picked up machetes and did what the radio had spent years telling them needed to be done. They were protecting their tribe from cockroaches. And here is the bone-chilling detail. The men who did this, the ordinary men who picked up machetes on April 7th and did not put them down for 100 days, were not uniquely broken. They were not selected for cruelty. They were farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, men who loved their children and helped their neighbors and went to church on Sundays. The same mechanism that destroyed Mostar destroyed Rwanda. No ancient hatred, no inevitable conflict, just a line drawn by someone else for someone else's purpose that slowly hardened from something fluid into something worth killing over. Us, them. And once that line was drawn clearly enough, deeply enough, for long enough, everything else followed. 1 million people, each of them someone's neighbor, each of them someone whose daughter the whole village had once searched all night to find, becoming monsters. And yet, not everyone followed. This is Oskar Schindler, and if you had met him in 1939, you would have not liked him very much. He was a member of the Nazi Party, a German businessman who followed the Wehrmacht into occupied Poland not out of ideology, but out of opportunity. There was money to be made in a conquered city, and Oskar Schindler intended to make it. He was charming, manipulative, and seriously unfaithful to his wife. He drank too much and gambled often, and cultivated relationships with SS officers because that was how you got things done in Krakow in 1940. He was not a good man. He was almost a bad man. But in the end, he was just a man. Ordinary in the way that most people are ordinary, shaped entirely by whatever world he found himself to be living in. One where Jewish people were not people, they were a category, a problem, a racial designation printed on an armband and stamped on a document. The machinery of the Third Reich had spent years doing exactly what the Belgian colonial administration had done in Rwanda, taking human beings and reclassifying them, moving them from us to them, from neighbors to Burman, from people whose suffering mattered to people whose suffering was the point. Oskar Schindler believed this, not fanatically, not with burning conviction, just passively, the way most people believe things their world tells them, without ever really examining whether it was true. And then something happened that no propaganda poster, no Nuremberg rally, no SS officer had accounted for. He got to know them, not as a category, not as a designation, as people. As Itzhak Stern, his accountant, quietly brilliant, the man who helped him build something profitable out of chaos. The workers on his floor, who had names, families, fears, in a dry, defiant sense of humor about their situation that Schindler found himself admiring against every instinct he had been given. Day by day, conversation by conversation, something shifted in Oskar Schindler that he probably couldn't even have named if you had asked him. They became his. In the oldest, most primitive, most biological sense of the word, they crossed the line from them to us, from a category to a tribe, his tribe. And once that happened, once that invisible reclassification occurred in the ancient part of his brain, everything else followed automatically. The same instinct that had made the Hutu pick up machetes made Oskar Schindler spend his entire fortune bribing SS officers to keep his workers alive. The same wiring that burned a family alive in their homes made one man build a fake factory in the middle of a war and fill it with people the state had decided were subhuman. Same instinct, opposite direction. By 1945, Oskar Schindler was broke. He had converted every Reichmark of his wartime profits into Jewish lives. 1,102 of them, to be precise. Men and women and children who walked out of his factory at the end of the war because one unremarkable, morally compromised, thoroughly ordinary man had, without fully understanding why, decided they were his people. At the end of the war, as the Soviet army approached, Schindler had to flee. He was, after all, still a Nazi Party member and a profiteer of the war. His workers gathered to say goodbye. One of them handed him a letter, signed by every worker in the factory, explaining who he was and what he had done for them, in case he was captured. Another handed him a ring, made from the gold filling of a worker's tooth, engraved inside with a line from the Talmud. Whoever saves a single soul, it is as if he has saved the entire world. Oskar Schindler, the greedy, unfaithful, opportunistic Nazi Party member, wept because they were his people, and in the end, he became one of theirs. And that is what makes human nature the most terrifying and the most beautiful thing in existence. It is not fixed, it is not destiny, it is not written in your blood or printed on your identity card, or decided by the government that happened to be in power when you were born. It is determined by one question, ancient, simple, operating below the level of conscious thought. Who do you consider yours? Let's go back, not to Rwanda, not to Yugoslavia, not to Nazi Germany, further. 100,000 years ago. There are no cities, no borders, no politics, just you, a fire, and the dozen people sitting around it. That's your world. Those people are everything. They're the ones who share their food when you're hungry, the ones who keep watch while you sleep, the ones who will pull you back when something in the dark gets too close. Out there, beyond the light, is not an idea. It's real. It's teeth. It's hunger. It's something that will kill you if you're alone. And alone, you don't survive. So your brain learns something very quickly. These people, they are you. Their fears feel like your fears. Their pain feels like your pain. Their survival is your survival. That's where empathy comes from. Not kindness, not morality, necessity. The people who left didn't last. The ones who stayed, bonded, who cared, they lived. And that part of you is still here. It's why your chest tightens when you see someone crying, why you feel something break inside you when a child suffers, even if they're on the other side of the world. It's why Oskar Schindler wept when his workers handed him a ring made from a tooth. That instinct never left you. But the world around that fire was never safe, because your tribe wasn't the only one. Other groups existed, and they needed the same food, the same water, the same land. And when there wasn't enough, someone had to lose. And in those moments, it was kill or be killed. Because if you saw them the way you saw your own people, you wouldn't be able to do what survival required. So something in you learned how to change the way you see, to look at someone just like you, and stop feeling what they feel. To turn off that part of you that hesitates, to stop seeing a person and start seeing a threat. Not because you're broken, your ancestors weren't. The ones who couldn't do that, who hesitated, who saw too much humanity in the people coming towards them, they didn't make it. The ones who could switch did. And both of these instincts stayed. The one that pulls people close and the one that pushes people out. And here is what should unsettle you. Nothing about that has changed. The world did. We built cities. We wrote laws. We created ideas like justice and human rights and equality. We told ourselves we were different now, better. But underneath all of that, you're still sitting around that fire. Your brain is still asking the same question it always has. Are they one of us? Because if the answer is yes, you will protect them. If the answer is no, everything else becomes possible. The line, who is inside it and who is outside, the only question left is what decides it. You're watching this on a screen, maybe on your phone, maybe late at night, maybe with one earbud in while the world carries on around you. And you've just watched 3 stories. Mobs, machetes, a man who spent his entire fortune saving people. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a very comfortable thought has been forming. I would never do that. Sit with that for a second. Not to attack it, not to tell you that you're wrong, just to ask one question. How do you know? The men of Mostar didn't wake up and decide to become monsters. They were neighbors, people who lived peacefully for decades. They would have told you, honestly, I would never do that. The farmers in Rwanda who picked up machetes on April 7th. Most of them had never committed violence before. They would have told you the same thing. But then something changed. Not who they were, just what they were seeing. And the tools for changing what you see have never been more powerful than today. Look around you, not at history, right now. Every time you open your phone, something is deciding what you see, and it has learned perfectly what keeps your attention. Not truth, not balance, conflict, threat, them. They are the problem. They want to destroy everything you care about. It doesn't matter what you believe. The system doesn't care. It just knows that outrage keeps you watching, that fear spreads faster than calm, that a clear enemy is easier than a complicated human being. So it gives you one every day. Not all at once, not loudly, slowly. A comment, a headline, a video, until certain people, without you even noticing, stop feeling like people. Not with identity cards, with notifications. And it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels like information, like awareness, like caring about the world. But what it's actually doing is answering one question for you. Are they one of us? And more, the answer becomes no, they're not. They're the threat. They're the reason things are broken. They're the ones coming for everything you love. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same message, the same ancient question, just delivered differently. There is no clean ending to the story. Mostar rebuilt, the division stayed. Rwanda healed, the scars didn't. But something remains true. Oskar Schindler didn't save 1,100 people because he was a good man. He wasn't. He saved them because he spent enough time with people he had been told were them, until they became us. No moment, no revelation, just time, just proximity, just seeing them clearly. And that shift is available to you. Because the man in Mostar, the one who searched all night for a missing child, he was human too. That warmth, that instinct to protect, same thing, different direction. The difference isn't who you are, it's what you're seeing. So when the line starts to harden, when someone becomes easier to dismiss than understand, when it feels obvious who's right and who's wrong, pause. Because the difference between this man with the torch and the man who saved 1,100 lives was never what they believed. It was where they drew the line. And that line is still being drawn right now by you. The instinct isn't good or evil, it just points. And all it's ever waiting for is a direction.